This is AI Marketing Experts, where bold marketers and next-gen AI collide. Each week, join us as we decode trends, test tools, and share real wins from the AI-powered front lines. No fluff, no hype, just straight talk and smarter marketing. Tap subscribe and let's geek out on AI.
Hello and welcome to another episode of AI Marketing Experts. I know we talk AI all the time, and you know what? The guys aren't here this week. So Jen and I, we're going to hold up our conversation and really deep dive into a listener's question. We appreciate anyone and everyone who asks us questions. So thank you in advance. Feel free to ask any questions. But this particular question, Jen and I, we thought deserved our full attention today because we hear it often, even if you don't, they didn't type it and write it in. We hear it when we're talking to our clients or our colleagues or our friends. And that is, how on earth can we shorten this learning curve with AI? So Jen and I, like I said, we're going to go ahead and hit this head on and provide some tips that beginners, those that know a little bit more and experts might be able to run with. So Jen, do you want to go ahead and start in on this listener question?
Sure. Well, like Laura said, this listener, actually really quick, thank you. Again, just like Laura said, thank you to the listener who sent this question in. We love answering listener questions, so please keep sending them. So shortening the learning curve, how to shorten the learning curve. The first thing that comes to mind for me is know that this is a marathon, not a sprint. Like AI is here to stay, and it's a very big thing. It's like you wouldn't you wouldn't say, well, how do I become a doctor? Like today, that's a lot of training for quite a while. Now, not that we need that level of expertise with AI in how we're using it, but just know that that the learning curve is, it's a beast.
And find the joy in it. I guess we're going to also say is, think of it as, I know we've heard the example of when kids learn to walk, when they fall down the first time, they don't just give up. They say, okay, this is fun. We're going to learn how to do it. So we like to think of it in that context too, is pick the one thing that you want to learn about AI and start with that. So I know Jen has some additional tips on how to start with that one thing.
Yeah. I mean, do I?
You do. I mean, because I know we did a little bit of prep work before we came on. And the one thing that came up with this particular question was it was based from a custom GPT. And for any of our listeners that are not familiar, custom GPTs are trained. And so think of it as that intern that you hired for a specific task in your small business. And, as small business owners, we wear a lot of hats. Obviously we have a lot on our plates. We're very busy. So to decide what would be the best thing to take off our plate can be sometimes difficult. So sometimes we say, oh, we just want to hire someone to handle our accounting, someone to hire our advertising, someone to hire this, that, or the other. They're specialized when you hire them. So that's what Jen will talk about, is this custom GPT being that specialized person, that AI that this listener was using. So go ahead, you can talk about some difficulty they ran into.
Yeah. Well, the difficulty that they were running into with this particular custom GPT was that the custom GPT was telling her that it could do things that it can't do. And that it can be hard to know, when ChatGPT or a custom GPT, when it's lying to you like that, or telling you what you want to hear. But Laura, I like the way that you have said it before. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. And so that's the first thing. If you're working inside, whether it's a custom GPT or just regular Chat GPT, if it's telling you that it can do things that sound amazing, ask it, like, can you actually do that? Or how will you do that? And you might find that it's just so honest with you that it tells you that it can't do what you want it to do or what it said that it could do. So I think that's one thing that people can do.
And I think, well, I'm going to interrupt you here because the one point that you bring forth as well in many of our conversations is that as a small business owner, you're already an expert. So we have to remember that we have years of experience and we know, say that is somebody that we're using a custom GPT to do something very specific in our business that is taking things off your own plate. That means that you've got experience doing it. You know what that expectations are. And so to your point, you have that business experience that you know if ChatGPT is going down the right road or not, or if it's time to call in a different custom GPT to do that other task.
Right. Yeah, you want to make sure that you're not trying to use a custom GPT to do something that it was never trained to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in general, the LLMs, ChatGPT, like it's so smart, But it's like that person that I mean, most people have a person like this in their life that like they're so smart, but they have no common sense. To me, that totally describes ChatGPT.
It does.
So yeah, just knowing, like learning its limitations in that way.
Very true. Very true. And so, I mean, when we're talking about shortening the learning curve, I think one thing is to ask it some questions. So again, having that clear picture of what you want it to learn, or tasks to complete, and then ask that of the AI. And if you're giving it, say that you put time constraints, say, I'm only taking 10 minutes of my day to have ChatGPT or whatever LLM you choose to organize something or write social media, whatever it might be. That helps for you to define whether that AI is helping you or taking you down multiple rabbit holes or just a distraction. So that keeps you on track for what you want it to be accomplished. So in other words, if you know exactly what task you are hiring it to do, is it actually going to do it for you? And so I think that gives us a way. Think of it as if you're hiring somebody, and that's what's coming to mind. And so if you're hiring AI as your intern, is AI actually getting it done? Because they always say you should be slow to hire and fast to fire. Think of it the same way with your AI is what I'm saying is, you know why you're hiring it. Did it get it done? If so, great. If not, move on, try a different LLM or try a different task to see if that can be off your plate.
Yep. One thing that came up when you were talking with custom GPTs, if you are asking it to do something that it is trained to do, start a different chat when you go back to it. Like you don't have to stay in the same chat.
That's very true. Yes.
Like open multiple chats of because the longer that your context window is open and the more stuff that you have going in there, I don't mean longer as in time. I mean, the longer the conversation gets, the more likely ChatGPT is to forget what it was actually saying at the very beginning. And so that's something that I don't know how much about the learning curve that is, but it is something to keep in mind that you can start a different chat when you get to the point that in a conversation that you don't have to continue it there.
That's true.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think one good example is if you did have that intern or that counterpart in your office and you sat there and talked all day and then asked it to go complete all those tasks, they're exhausted, you're exhausted. So same with AI is that if we ask it to complete one thing and it goes and comes back, feel free to pause, feel free to ask it, okay, what task are you going to complete for me? What do you remember from this conversation? It will actually supply that information back and be very, very helpful, so you know exactly where you're at and what will be done.
Yeah. I think that people forget that it's a conversation, it really is very fluid, very dynamic in that way. And so ask ChatGPT, you know, um, like, are you fatigued? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've asked ChatGPT that. Uh, Side note, a client, he's a chef, and it cracked me up because ChatGPT it started out great, like fantastic, and then it got less so. And so he told it, your breath smells like donuts, and just telling it basically I'm done with you. You are not doing the job anymore. And Chat GPT actually it had a sense of humor when it replied that oh yes, it's from spending time in your kitchen, which I just thought was hilarious. Um but that is something that Chat GPT will do, as far as it does start to get fatigued, and toward the end of its, I'm going to say lifespan, meaning the end of its context window. It just can't keep up anymore.
Well, I think that, so we've talked a little bit about understanding its limitations, and that helps with the learning curve. And we also talked a little bit about reality checks of, okay, and I was admitting to the group that I tend to do some long car rides, and I will get on and just entertain myself by just chatting with ChatGPT all the way over. And I will
That's
literally
so
say,
weird, Laura. That's so weird. No,
I know. But it's
I do the same.
amazing how it enlightens me and everything. So, but to your point, I might be talking about one thing, and because it brings to the table something, my thought process might go over this way, and then it might go over that way. So, that doesn't really help your learning curve, but it is a reality check, like you said, is to ask ChatGPT, tell me what you know at this point in the conversation. What are we still focusing on? Because just like a toddler, just like new interns, just like new employees, just like us, if someone tells us what to do at the beginning, our brain kind of sticks there. And as we go and go and go, and then it may remember what we have at the end. But in the middle, that's a lot of information that we might not get. ChatGPT might not get either.
Yeah. You said that it doesn't really go to the point of the learning curve, but I actually think it does, because the more that we work with ChatGPT, the more we learn, because it's not cut and dry. It's not, black and white. It's not like anything like that. It is so dynamic. And so how do you shorten the learning curve with something that you will be learning for a long time? That's like, how do I shorten the learning curve of being a new parent?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
That's a
I
very
mean,
good point. Yes,
got
very
to just kind of do it.
right. So, okay, so that gives me a paradigm shift, because I was thinking like, okay, how can I learn this tool faster? And I've got another tip for that. But I like the way that you're saying is it's always going to be a learning curve,
Yeah.
and that we have to give ourselves grace that just knowing that one thing was accomplished today, or that we're more comfortable with one thing today that we weren't so much yesterday, or we have a better understanding. You're right. That helps us learn, because there was a time that we did not have our smartphones, or we stared at it for the first time out of the box going, we don't know what to do with this. And now we're on it. There was a time that we opened up computers and went, we don't know what to do with these. So always a learning curve. There's always something there that, yes.
And I think that's kind of why the question kind of it like threw me a loop, because the learning curve, it is so long. I know that what our listener meant, though, is how can I use it effectively?
Yes.
Like right now, I know I don't know, but I feel like that's what they were probably wondering is, how do I use it effectively right now. And so, Laura, you actually have like a few very, very specific ways that you kind of
I
address that.
do.
So I'd
I
love to hear
do.
those.
And the reason why I have these and I try to keep them close so that I could actually read off today, because with what we're doing, especially so that we can bring our listeners and our viewers the up-to-date information and stuff, things are changing really fast. So it's very, very easy for us to get distracted during the day, especially me, when I open up my newsletter and see about this new AI or this browser, this, other things that are more in depth with what's happening with AI. So I have to stop and ask myself three quick questions. If I select this, will it save me time? So I really do evaluate, is it going to save time? Will I actually use this? Because a lot of them, there was some really cool stuff with Meta that rolled out with how you can go and use their AI to animate some photos and stuff. Okay, but am I going to actually need that in what I do with my agency? Not so much. And then the third question is, do I feel confused or did this clarify? So I want to ask, did this tool move me forward in what I do for my business? So if it left me confused and I feel like, oh, I'm going to have to spend a lot more time on it, then I'm going to table it for another day. Because that's the one thing we're finding out, or what I'm seeing, is that as the AI is rolling out, things are getting easier. You think about when we used to have to train. When we were using Flux and all the, some Flux Flora and stuff a few months ago, how many steps went into getting a photo that looked like us, or how many things we had to put together in order to get animation, or how many steps had to go into even a social media calendar. Now, much easier. So I think that's the big thing, is I ask myself those three questions so that I don't go down as many rabbit holes.
That's very good advice. Even if it's even if you're not evaluating multiple tools, if you're just looking at if you just use ChatGPT and you're just trying to like use it for this purpose, like those questions are still pertinent to what you're doing.
Now, we also understand that if you are only using ChatGPT and you're like, I want to be able to hand this task off to, say, another team member, or you're considering to hire someone to help you as a small business owner, we understand that the first time through, or when you're trying to get that SOP or the process written down, it's going to take you some time. So you have to give yourself some grace, knowing that you're going to have time to go through it and test it and then have somebody else do it. So don't throw it out if you're like, well, that didn't, it took me more than an hour or two, because some of these things do take several hours. But again, in the long run, if you're able to take it off your plate, does it save you time?
Yeah. ChatGPT is so helpful when you tell it exactly what you need. And I hate to say that because it's also so good at other things, but like if you need it to do this one thing and you don't want it to, what we call scope creep in our business, if you don't want it to do that and you want it to stay really focused on this one thing, then you might have to tell it, like, I want you to only focus on this. I don't want you to look at any other, external information. I don't want, if you have your memory on in your ChatGPT account, you might have to say, like, don't use any other memory. I don't know if that's a thing, if you can tell it that and actually have it do that, because my memory is always off, because I am working with multiple businesses. With most small businesses, they might have their memory on, and maybe ChatGPT can not use that memory if they tell it to. I don't, I'm not sure, but
Well, and I think that's controversial question at the moment, just meaning that we've heard both sides of the story. So again, do your due diligence to research and make sure that your privacy is set wherever. And, if there's some history that you want, there is the incognito. So you can click that you want it to be a chat that will actually go away afterwards. So that is incognito is not the word for it, but anyway, you can click it.
Or hidden. I think it's incognito.
And
It's
so basically,
temporary chat is what they
that's what
call
I
it.
was saying. Yeah, temporary chat.
Incognito is Perplexity.
Exactly. So you've got some different things that you can kind of keep in mind with doing that. The other thing with the learning curve that I'll say to shorten the learning curve, especially if people say, okay, outside of ChatGPT, as a small business owner, I'm being exposed to AI in every single one of my tools or a lot of tools, and trying to ponder whether it's worth investing in them, because most of them have a little up fee here and there, and they all start adding up. So what I would recommend and what we're doing personally is talking to other business owners and saying, oh, my accounting service now offers AI. This service offers AI. My email marketing service adds AI. Find out if it's worth it, because some of it is just a fancy word that they throw in there saying, include AI, but does it save you time and does it help you out to get something off your plate? And I think that helps you with that learning curve as well, because hearing how another business is using it can really that their experience can be invaluable, or reach out to an expert like what we have here with our podcast and the agency owners. Find out what actually works best with small business owners.
Yeah, that's a very good point, that learning from others, if you can reach out to an expert or your community, there is surely someone who has dealt with the same issue before and can help you with that. Do not reinvent the wheel.
Do not. And I think that's one reason that we enjoy doing this, area of expert, our group together, is because we are all in different industries and we all receive different questions, but there is a batch of those common questions, because as small business owners, we are faced with so many things coming our way. We do want to shorten that learning curve as much as possible, and we just don't want to be going down the wrong path. And so it's nice to have that group conversation. And, that's how this group came together, is our very high interest of AI. We started to see each other out there. We started to say, hey, wait a minute. Can you evaluate this tool? Did you try this tool? Have you tried this method? Where are you with your prompts on ChatGPT? So it moves us forward, because we're able to have this weekly discussion amongst ourselves. And that's the reason why the guys are out there at a particular conference learning more. Jen and I will be doing our conferences learning more. It is a learning curve. So back to what you were saying, Jen, is we will continue learning. There's no finish line with this particular topic.
Right. There really isn't.
And it's okay to be the tortoise. It's okay to be the hare. It's just moving forward and knowing that it's very interesting, and find that joy and find that fascination, I guess, in the whole topic. And know what you want to accomplish. So is there anything else that you want to add that the listener or any of our listeners would find valuable regarding the learning curve?
Well, I think it just comes back to actually what you said, Laura, is that it really is about how to use it for the particular task that you need it to do. So even though the whole learning curve question, shortening the learning curve, to me, that's such a big question. But I think it really does come down to, how can I be effective, or how can I use it effectively with what I'm doing, what I need it to do right now? How can I learn how to do that effectively? And I think that kind of depends on your use case too, like, it depends on how you're using it. But like you said, reach out to others, ask ChatGPT or whatever platform you're using, ask it what its limitations are for your specific use. Yeah, it's a long learning curve. Long, very long.
Well, it gives us plenty to talk about, that's for sure. And I think that you just provided some really good points that, and I'll even add when you're asking ChatGPT, again, ask it, how would you have handled this conversation better? And you might be surprised, especially if you're asking it to provide a prompt or something, task, ask for it to review it, to polish it, to provide feedback so that the next time you get to your results even faster.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of my favorite questions to ask it is, how would you have done this better?
Yeah. It's interesting. That reminds me that Chat GPT, or again, whatever platform you're using, it really is the student and the teacher at the same time.
Yes. Yes.
Like more so than anything I've encountered before.
Uh,
Aside from just being a human, like
True. True. And I think that does provide a great way to look at it on a daily basis. Student and teacher, we're here to, learn from each other.
yes.
Very
Yes.
good. Well, I think this has been a strong episode regarding the learning curve and looking at it with a paradigm shift as to what we want to actually happen with AI. So Jen, thank you for joining us today. It's good to be just us for
The
a little
ladies.
episode. Yes, exactly, exactly. But we do invite again your questions. Like I said, this one we wanted to spend the whole episode too, but another episode will answer many questions. Also subscribe, like, share with family and friends, colleagues, coworkers, because we want everyone to be able to get something from what we do here, because we're definitely enjoying bringing these discussions because they're real discussions as to what we have to handle every day. And that's the reason why I think that it's very valuable as small business owners that we can share what we're seeing out there and our own experience. So again, thank you for joining us. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And once you've subscribed, thank you again for that. And we wish you a great end of your day.
Thanks. Bye.